In case you missed it, earlier this week, we held our all-market summit. It's Yahoo Finance's big annual event where we talk to all the marquee folks in business, finance, and beyond. And, of course, we talked to some of those folks. Brian Sozzi, avid viewer, not just a participant in that day. And so he was listening very closely to folks like Target CEO Brian Cornell and GM CEO Mary Barra, and he has some lessons from those folks, some takeaways from what they had to say.
That conference was dope, so let's run through some of these takeaways. Again, I wrote more about this in the Morning Brief newsletter on our homepage right now. First up, Target CEO Brian Cornell telling me that they may be beyond the worst of the inventory glut. And Julie, that is indeed a good thing.
Yeah.
There we go. Next up, Chipotle. I think Brian Nickel telling us that price increases, you know what, they may be increasing prices or just moving forward, but still you have that takeaway. You see Chipotle shares up really pretty well under Nickel's leadership, in part because they have increased price, but also they still are not feeling the effect of higher minimum wages. It's something to watch out for, especially in California. We talked about this yesterday. And Brad, very interesting and important and key ingredient in Chipotle's story, ultimately.
Yeah, your two bowls are going to get a little bit more expensive.
Yes, indeed. All right, next up, Hilton. You and I talked to the CEO of Hilton. That's Chris Nassetta. The travel rebound is looking pretty strong. So that was interesting and very much dovetails with what you talked to Delta CEO Ed Bastian about and what I talked to Brian Moynihan, Bank of America CEO, as well. Consumer spending looks to be holding up. Paramount, our very own Alexandra Canal, sniffing out really, or just I think getting Bob Bakish, the CEO of Paramount, to expand more on their plans for streaming. Streaming looks very strong, something we heard about, of course, from Netflix last night. That stock is ripping higher. Not surprised based relative to what we heard from Paramount. And then bonus one here are two more, I should say. General Motors CEO Mary Barra telling our editor-in-chief Andy Sower, more electric vehicles are coming. Not one, not two, but there's a barrage of EVs coming that are going to look to challenge Tesla in the months and years ahead. And lastly, a bonus one. I caught up with Goldman Sachs CFO Dennis Coleman yesterday after their quarter. Asked him if there's any workforce reductions coming up. He said no dramatic reductions. Now, that is not saying no reductions, but they're going to have to make some fine-tuning given the declines them and all of Wall Street has seen in deal activity this year.
It's really hard to pick out a common theme because a lot of what you said sounded pretty positive. Then you get the likes of Jamie Dimon, raising a lot of red flags about the economic growth, and economists who we talked to who were also cautious about the economy. So it's difficult to sort of synthesize all of this into a coherent narrative.
Well, I did. In fact, there's my take. And I think that perfectly summarizes everything you just brought up. It is a weird time to be an investor. In many respects, we're seeing economic growth slow down. We're seeing consumer price inflation still at a 40-year high. But again, you have a Procter & Gamble coming out here beating on earnings, Goldman Sachs beating on earnings, Bank of America beating on earnings. It's strange.
I think we need like a wolf sound with that full screen.
Spooky,
yeah, something aggressive.
Or you in the Michael Jackson Thriller suit.
There you go.
Red.